This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You're watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
Alright everyone, I hope you're all doing well. If you're new to the channel, you're just about to click that subscribe button, aren't you? Turn it from red to grey, yes? Excellent, thank you, appreciate it. Come join the party. Now on this video, I'm going to do something a little bit different to what I usually do. This is something that I have done before, similar, when I started this channel just over 2 years ago, where I'll do my top 10 greatest heavyweights or top 10 current heavyweights and pound for pound, that kind of thing. Not that I really buy into the pound for pound too much, because I don't, but I kind of stopped doing it because people, I don't know why, us as boxing fans, we are the worst sports fans in the world, but we're also the best sports fans in the world. As in, we are the worst because our opinion is our opinion and our opinion is correct. Everybody else is wrong, okay? But we're the best because we're very, very passionate about it, okay? About our opinions. So I tend not to do it because people get offended when, if you do a pound for pound, how can you have so-and-so as number 1 or number 3? It should be this person. And people take it personally. I don't quite know why. But it's just an opinion, as this video is. It's just an opinion. Now, I was challenged to this by Unrivaled Boxing Talk and News, along with Boxing Beats and Rhymes Del Boy, that he asked to do it as well. I believe it was started by Boxing Librarian. So at the end of this video, I'm going to request a couple of other channels to do this video as well, okay, as in give their opinions on the top 8 in certain categories, which the categories are: most overrated boxer ever, most underrated boxer ever, current favourite, biggest disappointment, favourite boxer of all time, greatest boxer of all time, hardest puncher of all time, and best trainer of all time. So there's 8 categories. So I'm going to give my opinions on all those. Again, it's just an opinion, people. Don't get your knickers in a twist. And I ask you guys, as we go through this one, we'll go through the categories one by one. I'll give my thoughts, my opinion, and you put in the comment section what yours are, okay, as we go along. So open up the comment section, and let's start off with most overrated boxer ever. There's quite a few. I think, quite honestly, there's quite a few. I mean, certainly the second part of David Haye's career. But I think the most overrated boxer ever, Antonio Tarver. That's going to go down like a lead balloon for a lot of people, because some people have Antonio Tarver in their top 10 greatest pound-for-pound fighters of all time. Okay? For me, no. Now, again, I can only go by a lot of my thoughts, my opinions, based on what it is that I've seen with my own eyes and my own thoughts, my own feelings on it. But in my opinion, Antonio Tarver, I think he was overrated, to be honest with you, as in he had a lot of hype and I didn't see it as justified. Honestly, I didn't like how he fought. I didn't like his style. I didn't like his gangly puncher. I didn't really like it too much. And he wasn't a very good actor either in Rocky Balboa. Maybe that's pretty much what swung it for me, right? But for me, yes, okay, he had, was it 3 fights with Roy Jones Jr., did he get Roy Jones Jr. at the right time? I mean, potentially, because Roy Jones had already taken a loss. And as Roy Jones said, after he took that loss, which was stolen from him, you could say, I think that he, as Roy Jones Jr. said, that he lost that little bit of an edge with him. So maybe Antonio Tarver got him at the right time, I don't know. But he did have back-to-back losses to Chad Dawson. No great shame in that. I think that, in my opinion, Antonio Tarver was very, very overrated. Not to say he wasn't a good fighter. I think that due to the amount of hype that he was getting compared to his ability, I just don't think he was that good. But anyway, most underrated boxer ever. Underrated. Now, again, there's so many underrated boxers out there. Again, I can only go by what I've seen with my own eyes, and probably Tommy Morrison, to be fair. And I think a lot of that was because of he was in the mix of what we can now consider greats, okay? Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Riddick Bowe, etc. And the comeback with George Foreman, Shannon Briggs was coming through in that as well. Plenty of these fighters. So I think maybe, just maybe, Tommy Morrison came in at the wrong kind of time. Now, I know a lot of people, again, which is one of the reasons why I put him on the list here, is that when people think of Tommy Morrison, well, he's that fighter who died of HIV and AIDS-related illness, okay? That's what people think of him, which is unfair, I think. But I do feel that Tommy Morrison was not hyped at all, really. I mean, he was hyped, of course, but not as hyped as much as the other guys. I think he was underrated, all that kind of thing. So for me, I think that Tommy Morrison is certainly there. My current favourite fighter, Dillian Whyte. That's not going to surprise any of you guys, is it? So Dillian Whyte is my favourite fighter right now. Closely followed, I mean, of course, I've got like a lot of time and a lot of love for Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury and so on as well. But Dillian Whyte is my favourite. because he's improved as a fighter. He's got the heart of a lion. He's got the best left hook in the division by a landslide. He's a great body puncher, vicious right uppercut, straight right. He's just an all-round warrior and very, very improved, as I said. Now, hopefully everything gets sorted out with this whole situation that he's going through right now. Hopefully it does. But again, with Dillian, am I being biased? I mean, maybe a little bit, because he is the one who pretty much kickstarted me off with the, this channel 2 years ago. He was the one who gave me his time. And from time to time, once in a while, he will call me up, just say, hi, how you doing? Which is good. He didn't have to do that, but he does from time to time. So he's a real nice guy. A lot of people don't see that side to Dillian Whyte, but he's a really, really nice guy. So yeah, Dillian Whyte's my favourite fighter right now. Biggest disappointment. Now, I don't know if this disappointment, is it part of a one moment in a particular fight? Is that a disappointment, or are we talking biggest disappointment as a fighter? So I'm going to take it as fighter. My biggest disappointment was Audley Harrison, I think. Again, I can only judge by what it is that I've seen. After the Olympics, I was expecting great things from him, and he just never really lived up to it. He had the skills, he had decent left punch on him. Of course, he was southpaw. He had all these kind of tools, and maybe I bought into the, it's my time, it's my destiny. You guys will remember Audley Harrison talk about this. But one thing that he didn't have really was too much heart. And he certainly didn't have a chin. So I was disappointed with Audley Harrison. So for me, he was my biggest disappointment as far as a fighter goes. There are others, of course, but for me, he's number one. My favourite boxer of all time. Not necessarily the best fighter of all time, but my favourite is Nigel Benn. I think I'm going to go Nigel Benn. He was one of the very few fighters that if I was out playing with my mates or whatever, my friends, and I'd always be like clock watching, ask my friends what time it is so I can run back home because Nigel Benn's going to be fine, okay? So probably Nigel Benn. There were some other ones as well, of course, Lennox Lewis, Frank Bruno, of course, at the time, Glenn McCory as well. I loved Glenn McCory, although he has disrespected me recently. I don't quite know why he's done that, but anyway, Glenn McCory is one of them, and a couple of others as well, Mike Tyson as well. But yeah, I think Nigel Benn is probably my favourite fighter of all time. The greatest boxer of all time, that's a real tough one, real tough. But I want to go Jack Johnson. Not necessarily because he was the greatest of all time, which is kind of maybe the wrong answer to give on this one, but I know a lot of people say, well, it's Muhammad Ali, because I feel maybe they should say that, or they'll say, well, Lennox Lewis is, or they'll say Floyd Mayweather because of his record, or Rocky Marciano. But for me, I think that it would be Jack Johnson, because not only was he the first African-American to become heavyweight world champion, but he did a lot of this in a time where everything and everyone almost was against him. He was in a time of very, very racist America. Okay, I'm not saying that they still don't have parts nowadays, but the fighters now who's blaming their shortcomings on life or whatever it might be based on their race, you haven't been born compared to what the likes of Jack Johnson went through. You really haven't, okay? This guy, he went through the mill. Now I'm not saying that he was a nice guy, nothing like that. He did have some infidelities, and he liked fast cars and loose women, okay? Especially ones that he paid for, okay? He loved the white girls as well. He married a couple of white girls, I think it was, and he even got put in prison for being with a white girl as well. And they used the excuse of he was soliciting her, was it so almost like he was her pimp, but he wasn't. He was paying for her. Either way, they put him away for a year and 1 day, I think it was. But they were always looking for a reason to put him in jail, to lock him up. They didn't like him. A lot of it he did bring onto himself. Let's be honest. I said he liked the fast car, so he would get caught speeding from time to time. In fact, one of my favourite stories about him, for those of you who don't know, is that he was caught speeding by a police officer. And back in those days, you didn't really get like 3 points on your license, and if you get so-and-so points, you get banned, nothing like that. You get fined on the spot, which happened to be $50. Okay, Jack Johnson gave him a $100 bill. And the police officer said, well, I don't have change for this. So Jack Johnson said, don't worry about it, keep that $100 because I'm going to be doing the same speed on the way back. See, these kind of things would wind up white racist America, okay? So Jack Johnson, he went through all this kind of thing as well. Always, I mean, even his own people, if you like, the African Americans were looking at him going, why are you dating these white girls? You should be sticking with us. You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. So he had it all from all sides, and he still managed to achieve what he achieved in the ring. If he hadn't have had all these political agendas against him, who knows what he would have achieved? Even more, maybe. I said he was the first African American heavyweight world champion. It took him 10 years to get there. They didn't want him to become world heavyweight champion. And even when he did have the championship, they did everything that they could to try and get him removed as heavyweight world champion, including against James J. Jefferson, or Jeffrey, sorry. So they did everything that they could, and he went through the mill. He had a hell of a long career. And yes, of course, he did take multiple losses and had numerous draws. Were any of these losses and draws controversial? Sure. But ultimately, he was a fantastic fighter and managed to achieve what he did because of, in line with a lot of things that he had to go through in his personal life. So for me, maybe it's a case of I like his story more than anything else, and the fact that he could achieve even with the world against him, it seemed. But anyway, he's my greatest boxer of all time. Plenty of other ones to contend with, that's for sure. Hardest puncher ever, in my opinion, George Foreman. George Foreman would disagree with me. In fact, I'm one of the very, very few people that he actually follows on social media. But George Foreman would say Ernie Shavers. I mean, he might be right, I don't know. But my opinion is George Foreman. Especially in the first part of his career. He was snowballing everybody, but with both hands. You see, people look at Wilder now. Now, Wilder may go down as the greatest or hardest puncher of all time. We don't know, maybe. But he's a one punch, as in one hand. Okay, with Wilder. With George Foreman, it's two hands. He'd club you with each. And apparently it's like being hit by a baseball bat. And the way that he pinged Joe Frazier around the ring. Things like that. Of course, he'd come unstuck against Muhammad Ali because Muhammad Ali just was doing his rope-a-dope and whatever, and George Foreman couldn't land. But had he have landed, Muhammad Ali would have been out of there. But as with all big punchers, there's going to come a time when the skillful fighter is going to beat you. But I think that heavy-handed with both hands, certainly George Foreman, in my opinion. But those who say Ernie Shavers or whatever, I ain't going to argue with you. And last one, best trainer of all time. Now, I want to go Manny Stewart. Not necessarily because I want to say Manny Stewart. I'd love to say a Jimmy Tibbs or a Brendan Ingle, someone like that, or a potentially even now, maybe a Freddie Roach or something. But I think the greatest of all time is probably Manny Stewart, because when you look at his resume of the fighters that he's worked with, guarded them to world titles, he's even had a hand in helping a lot of fighters behind the scenes that people don't know about. For example, people don't know that he was somewhat guiding Tyson Fury in the early part of his career as well, along with quite a few others. He's been there with Michael Moorer. Most famously, I suppose, Lennox Lewis, Vladimir Klitschko, Thomas Hearns, etc. And he's had little parts to do with like Miguel Cotto and many, many others. Okay, I think it's like 40 world champions that he's been there with. And again, I'm going on memory on this one. I'm pretty sure when Lennox Lewis lost to Oliver McCall, Manny Stewart was in the corner of Oliver McCall. And then in the rematch, which was a little while later, he was in the corner of Lennox Lewis. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. I might be wrong on that one, but I'm pretty sure it was. But fantastic trainer. And he could see things that not many other people could. And he predicted that Tyson Fury will become a dominant world champion one day. He was very, very good on commentary team. And he just had an eye for boxing. He really did. So for me, I think Manny Stewart is probably the greatest trainer of all time. As I said, I don't know all the trainers of all time. I am a historian. So anyway, that's my pick. Incidentally, I do feel that a couple of trainers of today could go on to be, potentially. I think Mark Tibbs has got a good shout. Adam Booth's got a good shout. Rob McCracken, of course. I think Rob McCracken, I mean, if you talk about underrated coaches, I think Rob McCracken's got to be up there somewhere. I mean, most people know him for Joshua and Carl Froch, but what he does with the amateurs is fantastic as well. But yeah, anyway, listen, I think that Manny Stewart is the greatest trainer of all time, in my humble opinion. So to finish off this, right, I need to cut in with this audio real quick. I forgot I'm supposed to call upon other people to give their thoughts, their opinions on the 8, get their views on it. So I'm going to go straight away to my pals, fellow uploaders, Big Boys Boxing, Casual Boxing Talk, Bruce Fain, and Counterpunch Boxing News. I'm calling you four to do videos as well on this one, if of course you have the time. And let's mix it up just a little bit. Let's call upon some people within the boxing game that I would love to hear their opinions on the 8 categories. My pals, Spencer Fearon, Barry Hearn, and Mark Tibbs. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on it all. Just send me a message, give me a call, whatever you want to do. We'll get you on the channel and get your thoughts. Or if not, you guys all live pretty close to each other, as far as I'm aware you do. Have a meeting, stick a camera on yourselves, and just let me have it, and I'll upload it, of course. Or just have a word with Adam Smith. Yeah, Adam Smith. It'd be a good one to get on as well. Have a word with Adam Smith, have a round table with all 4 of you, or just throw in Johnny Nelson in there as well. He's always good for a laugh, so why not? Anyway, that's my thoughts on this 8 category. So just a quick refresh, which is the most overrated boxer ever, Antonio Tarver for me. Underrated boxer ever is Tommy Morrison. Current favourite fighter is Dillian White. Biggest disappointment is Audley Harrison. Favourite boxer of all time, Nigel Benn. Greatest boxer of all time, Jack Johnson. Hardest puncher ever, George Foreman. Greatest trainer of all time, Manny Stewart. That's my thoughts on it all. You guys drop me yours. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all on the next one.